Hi, I'm Jessica Paxton. I'm the afternoon host here on The Current, and I am joined today by the dynamic duo of Royel Maddell and Otis Pavlovic, a.k.a. Royel Otis, who are here in town, performing tonight at the Palace Theater. It's your Meet Me in the Car tour, along with special guest Baby, in support of your sophomore album, Hickey. Welcome back to The Current.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice introduction.
Did you have that all memorized? That's crazy.
This is my job. This is what I do for pennies on the dollar.
True.
So yes.
Nailed it.
So the new album, Hickey, it's been described, or I think one of you guys said the album title is because love bites harder than any other emotion.
Yeah, apparently someone said that.
Yeah, those sound like really deep words for someone who I'm guessing,
Two
is
shallow dudes.
kind of into the love game.
Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors, say no more. I also read that, which I love this, lyrics that break your heart and put you back together again at the same time.
Who said that?
I don't know. I read it somewhere and I thought that's so beautiful.
Probably one of ours as well.
I was going to say, I'm sure one of the two of you said that, so take credit for it. You got to take credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fantastic new album. It's, like I said, your sophomore release on the heels of your soaring debut, Pratts Pain, that seemingly made you like international household names. But let's go back to the very beginning. I'm interested in knowing how you guys came together as a musical duo. My understanding is that you both were already pursuing music individually. How did Royel Otis happen?
I think I had given up on music
Really?
by that stage. And I'm not sure if you
I was just kind of
cruising
getting
about.
started. I don't know. We had like a lot of like mutual family friends and stuff like growing up, but never really like crossed paths. And then around like 2018, 2019, we had like mutual friends and stuff, and we'd be at the same bars and just ended up hanging out a couple of times and talking about music, and it kind of just went from there.
Yes, it's not that fun of a story. It's a bit boring. But there's a skydiving version of it that's really good, though, you know.
Say no more. Do tell.
I was a skydiving instructor when Otis had his 18th birthday. And his girlfriend at the time got him a
Surprise
skydiving lesson. And so we were about to jump out of the plane and he was strapped to my chest.
He's like squeezing me hell hard.
Yeah, like a little baby koala. I was worried about him. It's scary when you're up there. It was also my first time jumping as well.
Now you tell him this.
Yeah. And then when we jumped out of the plane, I was like, put your arms out, you know. There's nothing we can do now if we... we're at God's will. But and he was screaming. It was like perfect pitch, and so I started harmonizing with it.
Yeah, and he's doing like little guitar melodies.
Yeah.
His mouth and stuff.
I was going. We landed safely, and I was like, "Man, you got to get into music." He was like, "I've got this demo." Handed it to me there in the field, and the rest is history.
You guys need like a comedy routine. That was amazing. Wow.
That's as far as it goes.
Wow. That is kind of, I think, the best origin story I have ever heard, especially the idea of him being a little baby koala in your
Baby
arms.
koala. Usually they don't strap them facing you, but this was an exception.
Legs around.
Legs around. You had to time.
Wow. How do I even go on beyond that? Well, that's amazing. So, shared love of certain artists, certain music. I mean, I feel like there's such a... I'm a huge fan of like what I call jangle pop, and your guitar playing like just makes me want to swoon. Like I get like a lump in my throat. But then your vocals come in, and it's like the pairing of the two are so lovely, but also kind of off kilter in the most beautiful way. Cool. And so I just feel like, how did that even happen? Like sometimes the universe really gets it right.
Who would you put into the categories like jangle pop?
Oh, well, I'm a big fan of old school like Marshall Crenshaw, Nick Lowe.
Sick.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I would love to get a little list off you.
Well, let's talk.
Yeah.
Right back at you.
I like the sound of jangle pop. That's cool.
But I would like to say that I coined that, but I don't think I did. I don't think I can take credit. But really, it truly is beautiful. So you have this skydiving adventure. You're immediately betrothed to each other musically. So 2 EPs, Oysters in My Pocket, Sofa King, and I want to clarify, I said Sofa King. And then these cover songs that you did, Sophie Ellis Bextor's Murder on the Dance Floor, and then the Cranberries' Linger, which I guess was a huge sensation. I will admit, I just checked that out for the first time the other night. And again, I mean, I'm of an age, when the Cranberries were big back in the 90s, and who wants to take on Dolores O'Riordan? And I watched this performance. I watched probably like 2 or 3 different versions of it, and seriously, like, slayed me, like, so beautiful. And I did not expect that. And again, the stripped down, the guitar, the voice. Why that song?
I don't know. We were running out of ideas.
I love how you're so self-deprecating.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, we also just love the song. Yeah, it's a special song. She's amazing. The Cranberries are amazing, and like, I think at the time we were in LA and we had the session coming up, and we weren't going to do it with a full band, so it was just like, I knew the song, Roy knew the song. I was like, we can do this. But then we're also like, is it a bad idea to attempt doing the Dolores cover?
It's one of those songs where you're like, you don't. There's songs that I don't think anyone should cover. That's one of them. And I'm pretty sure when she was joining the band, she made them agree that they would never do covers.
Really?
So it's kind of ironic in that way. But like that, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and like Boys Don't Cry. I don't think those songs should be covered.
That's interesting that you say that. And I do agree with you that, especially as a music lover, there's certain songs, certain artists that it's almost like they're so sacred that you
don't touch it.
Don't touch it, exactly. But I also think there's something about a cover song and a really like knock it out of the ballpark cover performance that is such a connector. Like everybody, even if somebody is new to a band or new to an artist, you perform an iconic song and immediately the crowd like comes together and it creates that idea of nostalgia, and we're all part of this singular voice, and you have that sing-along element. And so I think there can also be something really, like, sometimes covers get sort of a bad rap, but I think in a way it can be such a beautiful way to create community.
For sure.
Among
And then, like,
audiences.
bring light on a song like that's been around for so long.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I guess, like, I don't know,
A lot
just
of
paying
people-
some respect to it in the same way a little bit.
For those who hadn't heard it before, it's like when Paul McCartney did a song with like Kanye.
Well, 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah, and everyone was like, Kanye just made this old dude hell famous. It's like,
Exactly.
oh my God.
But sometimes you need stuff like that to happen in order for certain generations to look back and pay homage to what came before and then connect the dots and see that trajectory, where like musicians were inspired by certain artists, and that led them to where they are today. Did you guys both grow up in a household where music was on a lot?
Yeah,
and
the Cranberries are on.
Cranberries?
Yeah. Cranberries were on massively.
Yeah.
Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh.
Yeah, same.
The Cruel Sea.
Yeah.
And,
lot of Pixies.
Deep Jungle. You know that?
I
Like,
don't.
it's like a lot of like Solomon Island lullabies with like techno beats on it and
Very
stuff.
cool. We definitely need to.
You'd
Yes.
recognize some songs for sure. And by the way, before I was not comparing us to Kanye and Paul McCartney. I just want to make that clear.
I hear what you're saying. So you released your debut album, Pratts Pain, incredibly well received. Follow up now, Hickey, released about 18 months later. Did you feel a lot of pressure to get another album out?
Yeah.
Wait,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long story short, but like, it wasn't necessarily like bad pressure. Just kind of keeping it moving. It's like whether there's pressure coming from other people, self pressure, probably a bit of both. But
Also didn't really have much time to like feel the way. Are they new shoes?
yeah.
Nice.
I was kind of eyeballing those two.
You like it?
Yeah,
Kinda match my
I do.
parents'
I was
ish.
noticing
I'm
your
loving the
shoes
whole
too.
like
The whole brown.
the whole It's very autumnal. And autumn's here in
It's a
the
good word.
studio.
It is.
It's all bleeding coming together. Huh?
I think it is. So again, you guys are like just shucks. But now recently, I read that the ARIA Awards, which is kind of Australia's version of the Grammys, one of the most nominated bands, you ended up winning Best Rock Album, Best Band, Best Rock Group for Pratts Pain, your debut. Again, now you're on tour in support of Hickey, a fantastic new album. Is this your third time in Minnesota? I was trying to do the math.
So, yeah.
And I think three times in like 2 years.
Yeah.
A relatively. So you were at the
it is
Amsterdam, and then you sold out First Ave. Now you're going to be at the Palace. What is it about Minnesota audiences that just can't get enough of Royel Otis?
Oh, you gotta ask them. We wouldn't have a clue.
You don't feel the love? You don't notice it when you come
Feel
to
the
town?
love for sure. Yeah.
Feel the love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to talk to our agents as well because they
Yeah,
they do all the rooting stuff. But
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
go like, if it
Yeah.
works, it works, and we'll come back.
So you're on the road, tour bus. What's it like being on the road? Because it seems like it's just been, and part of the reason I brought up the 3 times in Minnesota, it's like nonstop release of music, nonstop touring. That's got to be a grind.
Yeah. It's a good grind.
How do you find distractions when you're on the road? I know you were talking before about different movies, trying to take in film. Like, what's your best sort of go-to distraction when you're on the road?
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
Switching a lot. The Nintendo Switch. Fortnite. Fortnite's
So a lot of
pretty
the
fun
video
game.
games.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good detachment, but also, yeah.
Chili roasted pistachios.
Ooh.
Pickles.
Yeah.
Pickles. Anything pickled.
Otis pickles.
Everything. Yeah.
Anything pickled, yeah.
And also just like sleeping.
Oh,
Except
Sometimes,
dude,
if
I
you
feel
can.
you on that one.
Although it's pretty
Yeah.
hard on the bus
Yeah.
recently.
Last night was
Sometimes pretty
crazy.
bumpy.
I'm still like, feel like I've gotten off a roller coaster. You know when your legs are like not working.
Kind of
that
wobbly,
right?
kind of wet noodles.
Yeah. Wet noodles.
Yeah, feeling that still.
That
Well,
made me hungry.
I want to circle back a little bit to, you guys are from Australia. I'm in love with all things Australian. I think a big part of that is the, to me at least, there's this sense, and I feel this in your music and even like how we're having this conversation right now, there's this focus on beauty and sunshine and community and togetherness, but there's also this sense of like the bittersweet and the dark underbelly and the sardonic humor. And I think about like my favorite music from Australia, bands like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds or Courtney Barnett, but also film. Like I feel like Australia is, to me, just such a creative hotbed. And I think about television shows and films in particular, like the films of Jane Campion, George Miller, of course. But that, again, that sense of like the dark underbelly. Can you talk a little bit? I mean, do you feel a sense of that?
It does kind of have that. Like one of my favorite films is actually Australian, but it's like a weird.
Man from Snowy River.
Yeah, the Man from Snowy River.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like its own thing. But I guess there is like a dark underbelly a little bit. Like there's definitely spots in Australia which have its own thing. Like in Sydney, like there's the King's Cross.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of
definitely
shows.
got an underbelly there.
Cool. There's a show called Underbelly. I think about.
Oh, really?
About it, yeah.
Okay.
It's like I think with Australia, because it's so like sunshiny and like everything, I think everything sort of has that sound. Like sonically, bands that come out of Australia just always seem to kind of at least have a little bit of like
Beachy.
Yeah, beachy, upbeat, poppy.
Yeah.
Very
it's like
danceable.
Yeah,
it's
except
like
Nick Cave.
Chopper as well, the film Chopper.
Yeah.
That's like super dark, but
Yeah.
it's like a funny film.
Well,
at the
and
same
that's
time.
kind of what it is. It's like it's so dark, but it's funny. And I feel like there's something, in fact, that was another quote, description of your music that I really liked, was that it's not just an album about heartbreak. It's about the strange, beautiful tension of feeling both broken and alive at the same time. And so it's that like that beautiful contradiction of, again, the light and the dark, the sad and scary, but with the funny and the like really kind of weird humor.
I think Australians take the piss out of themselves a lot. You know,
That's a good quote.
Self-deprecating.
Take the self-deprecating, exactly. Which and that again, that sardonic humor.
My dad always said, if you can't laugh at yourself, you're missing out on the biggest joke in the world. There you go.
I love
think
it.
he was having a dig at me when he was saying that.
You guys have some good lingo too. What's some good Aussie lingo I need to incorporate into my? I mean, I've got like you betcha and oofda and
It's like
the Minnesota stuff. But come on.
We like shorten things a lot. Like if we say like this afternoon, we'll say the Savo or
Sava.
see the Savo.
Si Savi.
We've got,
I don't think I can pull that off.
the Savo.
Si Savi.
See
See you, Savi.
Instead of see you later, Kelly Slater. I don't know how like Australian that is, given he's not Australian or anything. But
Let's go for
So
a
maybe
walk,
it's just
Tony
Royal
Hawk.
Otis lingo.
Go for a
Sorry, I
walk,
cut you
Tony
off.
Hawk.
What was that?
left, right, good night.
Right, good night.
Well,
Sweet as, I think we said. You guys don't say
Yeah.
sweet as. or
Sweethearts?
anything. Sweet
Sweet
as.
sweet as.
And like heaps.
Keen. Heaps and keen.
Keen. Oh,
Yeah.
also, do you guys ever say flat out?
Maybe.
Like, because I was talking to someone last night, and she was like, "What? I have no idea what you mean." But flat out is like busy.
Oh.
It's like, oh, I can't. I'm flat out.
Oh, I like that.
Mm.
It's kind of like you have a flat tire because you've just like
That's one way to think of it,
gone
yeah.
so many miles.
True.
You can't take it anymore.
I just assumed everyone
flat
said
out.
it.
Flat out.
Oh man, I should be taking like copious notes here. So when we talk about music, let's talk about some good vernacular too. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're so excited to have you back in town. Again, it's an amazing new album. It's super fun music. It's also really, I just feel like beautiful listening to the 3 songs you guys performed from Hickey. There's such an awareness and an insightfulness. Obviously, we're from very different generations, but I'm like, how can these guys be singing so eloquently about heartbreak and love? What do they know about any of this stuff? They've barely been around the block. But it's like it's transgenerational. It's just it speaks to the human experience, and I think there's something about love and loss that is so universal. And your music really encapsulates that in a really fun, beautiful, heartfelt way.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's been so
nice. Yeah.
complimentary.
So kind.
We needed this.
Well,
this
say no
morning.
more. I love talking to you guys. So again, Palace Theater tonight, special guest Baby, hitting the road.
They're rad, by the way.
Continuing on the tour. Absolutely great opening act. What's next? Do you get to go home anytime soon and just chill before you feel the pressure of the next album?
Well, we're touring home.
Yeah, in a week or so.
Yeah. But
Back to Australia. But we're going to be like pretty in and out, like going to Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, and then.
So it sounds like the nonstop touring is
foreseeable
the
future.
foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we just booked all those festivals next year as well.
Yeah. But we get some, like
Not
December,
sure
it
if I'm
kind of
allowed
all
to say
finishes, and then we get some time after that, I think.
Awesome.
Christmas.
Well,
Christmas will
Christmas.
love Christmas.
Yeah. What's a good? I'm a big fan of Paul Kelly. What's a big Christmas
The
tradition? The gravy.
The gravy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah.
making the gravy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
who's
That's
making
a
the
big-
gravy?
That's a big
Chrissy
Christmas
song.
thing.
Yeah.
Prawns.
Prawns.
Yeah, which is weird
Prawns,
because
turkey, ham, all of it.
god damn. Some applesauce,
Yeah. Some oysters sometimes.
oysters.
In your pocket.
Yeah.
Always.
Also,
for
apparently,
lunch.
if you want to, because you got to like peel the prawns and stuff. Apparently, if you want to get rid of the smell of the prawns on your fingers, you like touch stainless steel.
I've heard that. I was going to say copper or stainless steel.
Copper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be classy. Oh yeah.
I feel like I could talk to you guys forever. You're way too funny. So we're going to wrap it up with, I just got to say, in the words of Sophie Ellis Baxter, DJ, let's burn this GD house right down.
Boom.
Let's do it.
You betcha.
Bet you duper.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.